The town of Willow Creek was the kind of place where nothing shocking was supposed to happen. Tree-lined streets, small bakeries, quiet neighbors who waved politely every morning, everything looked peaceful on the outside. But sometimes the most painful stories hide behind the calmest streets. Every day, at exactly 7:15 in the morning, a black luxury car would slowly pass through Maple Street. Inside sat a quiet man named Daniel Carter, the mysterious CEO of a billion-dollar technology company. Most people in town had no idea who he was. Daniel preferred it that way. Despite his enormous wealth, he dressed simply, lived quietly, and rarely spoke about his success. But for the past 3 months, something had been disturbing his morning routine. Every day, as his car approached the same small gray house near the end of the street, he would see a heartbreaking scene unfold. A young girl, no older than 10, would be outside carrying heavy trash bags almost as big as she was. Her clothes were worn, her face often tear-streaked, and behind her stood her mother, shouting angrily and sometimes striking her with a belt. Daniel had seen many harsh realities in business, but nothing had shaken him the way this did. At first, he wondered if he was misunderstanding the situation. Maybe it was just strict discipline. Maybe he was seeing only a moment taken out of context. But day after day, the pattern repeated. The girl would struggle to carry the bags, stumble under the weight, and the mother would scream cruel words that echoed down the quiet street. Neighbors would glance from their windows but quickly turn away, pretending not to notice. And Daniel, sitting silently in the back seat of his car, felt something inside him growing heavier each day. One morning, the scene became worse than ever. The girl slipped on the wet pavement, the trash bags splitting open as garbage scattered across the road. Before she could even stand up, her mother stormed forward in fury. Daniel's driver instinctively slowed the car as the shouting grew louder. The girl curled up, covering her head, bracing herself. At that moment, something inside Daniel snapped. "Stop the car," he said calmly but firmly. His driver hesitated. Daniel almost never interfered in anything on the street. But the seriousness in his voice left no room for doubt. The car stopped. Daniel stepped out. The autumn air was cold, and the entire street seemed to freeze in silence as the well-dressed stranger walked toward the chaotic scene. The mother barely noticed him at first, still shouting at the girl who trembled on the pavement. Daniel spoke quietly, but his voice carried authority. "That's enough." The mother turned sharply, surprised and irritated. "This is none of your business," she snapped. Daniel didn't raise his voice. He simply looked at the terrified child, then back at the woman. "It became my business the moment you started hurting someone who can't defend herself." A few curtains across the street moved as curious neighbors peeked out. No one had ever confronted the woman before. She was known for her temper, and people preferred to stay away. The mother laughed bitterly. "Who do you think you are? Some hero?" Daniel paused for a moment, studying the girl's frightened eyes. Then he knelt down beside her and gently helped her stand. "My name is Daniel Carter," he said calmly. The name didn't mean much to the mother at first. But within minutes, something happened that would shake the entire town. Daniel made a phone call. Not to the police. Not yet. Instead, he called someone far more powerful within the system. Within 30 minutes, 2 social workers arrived, followed shortly by local authorities. Word spread quickly through Maple Street as neighbors stepped outside to watch. The once ignored situation was suddenly at the center of attention. The mother's confidence quickly faded as officials began asking serious questions. But the real shock came later that afternoon when the entire town discovered who Daniel Carter truly was. News reports revealed that the quiet man from Maple Street wasn't just wealthy, he was one of the most influential CEOs in the country, known for building companies and charities that helped thousands of families. And now, his attention had turned to one small girl in Willow Creek. But what Daniel did next would shock the town even more. Instead of simply walking away after calling the authorities, he took a step that no one expected. A step that would completely change the girl's life, and force the entire community to confront something they had ignored for far too long. And what happened next would leave the town speechless. Before we continue the story, take a moment to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you never miss powerful stories like this one. Because sometimes, a single act of courage can change a life forever, and the next chapter of this story proves exactly that.